Keith has always said, he says, "Oh man, the Stones are like they'll probably carry on when I've gone." And I mean, Mick's looking great, you know, he's still and I, you know, my dreamy mind is like saying, if Keith, you know, don't get me wrong, I don't want anything to happen to him, but he's getting on. Hey, you know, I know all his licks, man. Get me in, Mick. You know, if Keith can't make it, I'm there. You know, but yeah, that would be an absolute fantasy. But yeah, I do. I just love his playing. I do love his playing.
This is Rob Ruckus.
Hey, this is Kate Clover.
Hey guys, it's Nick Collins here from The Effect and Better Strangers.
Hi, my name's Madeline Rose.
Hey, it's Ben McKelvey.
It's Tim Howard here from Mike and the Mechanics.
Hello, I'm Amanda Lehman.
I'm Billy Harvey.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Casey Sampson from the band Twist Stop.
Hey, it's Tony from Fastball.
Hello, everybody. My name is Isaiah Mitchell.
Hey, guys, it's Matt here from the White Lakes.
You're listening to Almost Famous Magazine.
Come join us for this interview. Check it out, Almost Famous Magazine.
Well, that and that dovetails really well into where I want to go next. It's like, look, for everyone who's watching, you can see Kris is surrounded by guitars. My question is, which one's your baby? Which is your favorite guitar to pick up, and why?
This Santa Cruz right here. It's absolutely. It's just, I bought it. It wasn't cheap. I bought it. I think. Oh, it must have been 22. It's probably when Dell's started working because you know was getting paid, and it's a company in California, in Santa Cruz, California, and it is just beautiful. It is just. I always said if there's one guitar, I would sell the lot just for that one, and I would, and I would this one. It is absolutely just a beauty. Other than that, this 330 here. Hang on, let me just grab this for. This is a Gibson 330, and I bought this from Rat Scabies. I don't know if you can see that. I bought this
Lovely.
from Rat Scabies from the Damned. It's late 60s, 68, 69. And and Rat Scabies is a drummer. He's renowned for being quite a raucous drummer at that. And I've no idea how he acquired this guitar. I didn't ask. And but I bought it off him 20, 30 years ago. It's a blues machine. It really is. It's just
Yep.
It's great. So those two really, and but I mean I've always been taught that the guitar they're a tool. You know what I mean? We're not taught. I've just always felt that they're a tool. Yes, they're great things, and I love them. But at the end of the day, they're there to do a job for me. You know, so I don't get overly attached to guitars, but yeah, there's a couple there that I really, really like. So yeah.
Well, I mean, part of the craft is also getting the sound to sound the way that you want, right? The sound, the feel of it. And besides using your hands, you know, there's effects involved. What are some of the effects that you like to add to kind of like that stew to give it some flavor?
To be honest, Scott, if I could, I wouldn't use any. I'd go straight into the amp. I'm not a fan of any kind of effects. You know, they've got their place. I'm not. You know, I do use them. I used like a tube screamer on stage. Ibanez tube screamer and a bit of tremolo sometimes and a little bit of reverb, and that's pretty much all I use with the Dell's a booster pedal, and that is it with Del Amitri. That is it. And they're good fun messing about with. I do buy them. I do occasionally. I bought one the other day. I can't remember what the electroharmonic something. I can't remember what it was, but it was, you know, it was, and reverbs. You know, you get these really lush reverbs these days and echoes, and they're good fun, but it's just gimmicky. I find it really, really quite gimmicky, and I always like have a little. You don't see it so much these days, but there was a time in the 90s, I think it was, when the Damned were doing festivals, and and you get these huge effects boards. I mean, they were like the size of my house. Do you know what I mean? They were just ridiculous effects, and you're like, and a rack, of all the, and you're like, oh, come on, horses for courses. If that floats your boat, then fair enough. But that ain't for me. I would happily go straight into the amp and just, yeah. Was it Marty Stewart, the country picker? Is it Marty? Yeah, him and who's it? Something Vaughan. Not Terry Vaughan. I can't remember his guitar player. Yeah, they're of that school. Just plug straight into a Fender Twin Telecaster. There you go. And it's horses for courses, but it doesn't do it for me. Effects. And I never really have been, a great fan of effects at all. So,
well, it's interesting nowadays. I mean, there's using effects with a purpose and a meaning because they bring something to the music, and then there's because I have them, therefore I will.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And a lot of music you hear, it's just, where's the person and where is this machinery? Where's the line between them? Yeah,
there is. But I mean, you can create some great, soundscapes. I think again, it's like as the music industry evolves, it just becomes normal, and it just becomes so much choice. Like, again, I'm not one for looking back at all. Absolutely not. And that's one of the reasons why I hate Facebook, because it's all looking back. Oh, look at me. And I was like, look at this advert. Anyway, that's another story. But anyway, going back to the 70s, like say someone like John Martin, his music. And he was really inventive with effects, with the echoes and, and the volume swells. And it was just really fun. Now you can just, and he had like a big old bulky, echo units and, and amps and that. But now you can get that in a chip, and it's like, it's not to say it's wrong, but it's not innovative. It's excuse me. He was innovating with sounds, and it was genuinely new sounds. Now it's like everybody's heard it, and that's one of my bugbears actually of modern day life. It's just like it's everything. You've heard it all before, I watch Glastonbury. I don't go to it. I watch it on the telly, and it's like band after band after band after band of like. And I say to my wife, I say, he's going to get him to clap in a minute. In the hands in the air, come on, and he does, or she, and he's going to go in the audience in a minute. He's going to crowd surf in the audience, and it is every single time. You can predict it, and occasionally you get someone who doesn't do that, but it just seems to be it's the same sounds, and I've seen people being interviewed like this, and I'm like, come on. You're just living in the past. I don't think I'm living in the past, but I just like new things. I like hearing something new. And inventive, and something. Oh wow! I've never seen that before.
Well, that's an interesting point. Do you think that we have, if you leave the 90s, you get into 2000s, technology has really kind of become a baseline of sound at this point. But then there are people such as yourself getting back to the blues, or there are people who I'm forgetting his name now. He plays with Ray Wilson.
Ray Wilson.
Ray Wilson was Jim. Let me see if I can find it here. I know Allie Ferguson, and Allie plays with soundscapes, and his music, although you can feel some prog rock and Pink Floyd in it. He has water and wind, and he's incorporating nature into his music and separating himself apart. Do you think we've come back to a point where we're starting to, some artists are starting to think that maybe less is more?
Do you know what? This is my great hope that it will do. And when I was getting into John Fahey's music, it was like, this is the future, all this, all this technology and that, people are going to start to feel that there's something missing here, I don't know whether they will, but, that you see somebody, when you when you hear somebody sing or play an instrument, a guitar, piano, absolutely acoustically with no electronics in a room or out in the open, there's a totally different vibe to when you're in a, when it's going through a PA and electronics, that's good, and it's nice and loud, but you hear somebody sing just in a room with no microphone, no PA, or playing an acoustic guitar, there's just nothing. It's a, I don't sound like a hippie, but it's a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? It really is, because it's like, wow, that's how it sounds. It's not going through, So yeah.
Yeah, no, I just spoke with a young gentleman. I think he's 22, 23. His name is Moy Cohen. His parents are from Mexico and the UK, so
Right.
he's lived between the two, and he has this stripped down, beautiful sound where his voice blends with the guitar and a little bit of cello, and that's kind of all there is, and it just has this beauty to it that it sounds nice, and he's so young and wise for his years that it sets itself apart from a lot of what you hear today.
It does. Sorry, there's a dog barking. One of my neighbour's dogs. I don't know. I've got dogs myself, but I've locked them up in the house. I don't know if you can hear that. But it's I just love things that, and it doesn't have to be, I love that, just natural noises of the elements and just playing without any kind of electronics. But I love electronics as well. I mean, you've got to love it all. You can't say, oh, I don't want to do that, I only want to do this. You've got to, accept it all. And computers and technology and microchips are part of our lives these days. And you've I admit I have a hard time with it, but you've got to accept it, and try and live with it and get something out of it, And yeah, hopefully, I will. That's the plan.
I mean, change and evolution are inevitable. I think change is great. It's good, but I think it's how you choose to make it uniquely your own. How do you change it your own way, as opposed to being someone else or doing what someone else has done?
That's what I think. I think people, they tend to just follow the flow. It's just like, and you hear it in language, in styles, clothes styles, and it's just like people just go along with it, and you can have an element of that. But I do. I'm. It's a personal thing that I just can't go along with. I just have to make and say this sounds like everything else. You know what I mean? And I know I sound like an old fart. I know I do. I sound like my dad. Oh, it all sounds the same. But it really, really does, because it is the same sounds. But I don't know where music. I think there's some what I've found is that rock music is definitely stagnating, in my opinion. It's just, you get some bands that sound pretty good, but it's all the same format, it really is. But I find more inventiveness, weirdly, and I don't know if I'm right, or it doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong, but I find more inventiveness in and originality in sort of neoclassical music, when I was driving back from the North Berwick gig that we done on Saturday, it was like, I listened to it as a radio station, Radio 3 it's called, and it's just sort of classical. It's just some avant-garde stuff, and I was listening, there's some things on there, I'm like, wow, that's out there, somebody just, tapping the mic and shaking things, and there's some really out there stuff in that world. And it's not, that sounds poncy saying neoclassical, it's not, but just getting away from that format of, you turn up guitars and, loud drums for a big PA, and it's great, don't get me wrong, when it's done right, it's great, but it just seems to be, it's formulated. It's like, right, okay, you form a band now, we can do this. It's all, the technology with like in-ears, and I use in-ear monitoring, but I'm not a fan of it because it just kills the vibe. It's about the vibe. It's about the vibe. Again, I am an old hippie. I can get that. I'm totally an old hippie, but it is. It's about the vibe, man. And there's not great deal of vibe. And if there are vibes, they're kind of bad vibes a lot, around these days. And and it doesn't matter where it comes from, really, but just do something that feels good and natural. I don't know. I'm talking rubbish here, but hopefully you know what I mean, or not.
Yeah, no, and let me ask you this: you've played with a fair number of amazing musicians in your career. You've had great opportunities. Now, if you had a chance, and I don't like the term bucket list, but if you had a chance to sit down with somebody in a studio to be creative, right, to write a song or just create something together, who would that one person be?
Oh dear. To actually collaborate with, oh man, that's a tough question, man. You know, I want to say Keith because he get his 5-string guitar out, and I could be the Ronnie, but I that's really hard. That's really hard. I would maybe not. It's the same sort of thing, but what I would love to do. I can't answer that question, Scott. Sorry, I can't. I'll be honest with you. But what I would, on the same kind of lines, I would love, if I could, to go back to a barrel house in the 1920s or 1930s and see, Robert Johnson or Charlie Patton, and just how it was back then. They had no big PA. They just had an acoustic guitar. And yet, and that I do a lot of blues gigs, and I did do before lockdown, and I've done these blues, and everyone is full of predominantly white people sitting there, stone quiet, absolutely, I would say affluent white people, most of the time. They're sitting there like that, and they're like, pin drop silent, watching it and playing it, and it's great. I'm not knocking it. It's it's a wonderful thing. But you go back to where this music that I'm playing in front of these people, it couldn't be further away from what that situation, right? But it would be full of downtrodden people with nothing, and drinking, guns. Oh man! And then you've got somebody in the corner playing an acoustic guitar. God, what would it have been like? I would love to just go back and see what that would have been like, because it just amazes me. And and the thought that these bluesmen, like, I keep mentioning Robert Johnson, but there's many of them that they just travelled around by train, and just what that lifestyle, that really intrigues me, that kind of lifestyle. And that's what I would love to do. Yeah, and go back, and not just one person, but for a few of them, just see what it was like back then, because it would be an eye opener.
Well, we don't have time machines, so we can't get you back there. But you did for a moment there mention Keith Richards, and I will tell you that people watch these, and we've had some amazing things happen when names are mentioned. So you never know; you might get your chance. You never know. You never know who's watching.
Look, Keith has always said, he says, "Oh man, the Stones are like, they'll probably carry on when I've gone." And I mean, Mick's looking great. He's still and my dreamy mind is like saying, if Keith, don't get me wrong, I don't want anything to happen to him, but he's getting on. Hey, I know all his licks, man. Get me in, Mick. If Keith can't make it, I'm there. But yeah, that would be an absolute fantasy. But I just love his playing. I do love his playing.
And look, I mean, if anyone's going to outlast anyone else, if you've seen all the memes online, it's going to be Keith. I mean, the prediction is he'll outlive formaldehyde. Speaking of which, and outliving in health, you recently had your own bit of a health scare and reevaluated your health. And we've had conversations before with artists about really kind of taking that serious. What did you go through, and what kind of changes have you started to make to become healthy?
Well, us rock and roll types, we tend to think. There's a friend of mine put something on my Facebook, and it says us rock and roll types, we tend to think we're invincible, and we're not. We most definitely are not. Well, basically, I was. It's been going on for about a year. I basically had what I was told a heart attack, and I had 2 stents put in my heart. This was about 26th of April. Was that 4 months ago, or more? So yeah, but I'd been getting these. I would call them pains. It was like a burning in my chest every time I walked. So it wouldn't happen all the time, just occasionally at first. Then it was happening more and more, just burning. And sometimes it was starting to get a pain, and I could feel it down my arms. I'm like, oh, shit, something really isn't right. And it got really bad when we was rehearsing for the Simple Minds tour. And I remember, like, because normally the hotel I walk back, Jim doesn't live in Glasgow, so we stay at the same hotel, the drummer, Jim. And I was like avoiding him, walking him back, because I didn't want to, like, I said, Jim, I've got to stop here, because he'd be like, what's going on? So I'd have thought, I'm just going back, I've got to call out or whatever. And so yeah, and I knew something. I'm like, and I genuinely, I did, and I told the guys this. I said, it was 50-50. I thought whether I'd get through that Simple Minds tour. I genuinely thought, I've got to see a doctor after. I'm not going to go and see one now in case he says, no, you've got to get to it, because I could, it's not in my DNA to not do it unless I'm, absolutely incapacitated. But and so I went to the doctor as soon as that tour finished, and they done an ECG. I don't, but they put the things on you and test all your, your blood flow, and within 2 minutes of them getting the results of this ECG, they were like, you've got to get to the hospital now. We've called you an ambulance. You're going now. And within 2 hours of that ECG, I was having the stents put in my heart. And I can't say it terrified me. It didn't terrify me, because it was like, I just wondered because I thought, well, I'm all right. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, I've got this pain in my chest every now and again, which was actually all the time, every time I walked. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm all right. And but yeah, afterwards, I got really emotional. When the dust had settled, and I thought about it, I was like, wow, that I could have, I know I joke about, I weren't going to make the Simple Minds, but that was the, bravado rock and roll type coming out of me. Yeah, if I die on stage, that'd be great, man, wouldn't it? But actually, when you actually think about it, you're like, shit, what sorry to use language, but what a fucking idiot, you know what I mean? Really, what an idiot. Why did you not go? Probably about a year back, when I started getting these, and just go and get it checked out. And I don't often get that angry at myself, I'm like, I'm kind of like, well, yeah, just let it go. But I felt such an idiot for just not going to see about it. And I tried to say to anybody watching this, if you've got anything like that, please go get it checked out. It might save your life. Genuinely, it might, because man, I could not be here talking to you now, and that just, and I mean that is a reality. I mean, one day I won't, of course, but it just, yeah, and I don't think it's just made me. I don't know what it's made. I can't say it's really changed anything. I think I like to think I'm a bit more chilled, but yeah, I just want to get things done, and I'm not. Not so worried about what people think or what people say, or whether it's the right thing or not, because at the end of the day, it don't fucking matter. Sorry, I'm starting to swear and cuss a lot now. I do apologise, but it just doesn't matter. Just do what you do, and just get on with it, and do what you do. And yeah, it was a big one. It wasn't at the time, but as the dust settles, as I said, it became like, wow, that's mad. And now, with these stents in my nothing, nothing. I genuinely feel like a new man. I really, really do. It's like, you know, it's amazing. You know, I always knock modern technology, but oh my God, you know, oh yeah. If this was 30 years ago, I just had to deal with it and maybe, yeah, dealt with the consequences. But yeah, I feel great, you know. It's, there's other things playing. There's trouble with my eyes, and yeah, fucking.
We all fall apart eventually.
Yeah,
right?
no, but apart from that, you know, yeah, I do. The actual, yeah, the engine is hopefully got a few more years left in it yet, you know. So yeah, a good few.
Well, I think I think it's great. I mean, you know, sometimes we get caught up in life and we ignore the most valuable thing we have, which is our health, right? You want to, the show must go on, or I've got, you know, in business, I've got to get to this meeting or whatever. And we forget to make that great investment in the fact that we're alive and we need to keep ourselves alive.
You know, and just the selfishness of it all as well. Why I didn't go, you know, my family, my I'm going to get emotional. It's like, you know, my girls and you know, my wife. It's like, why, you know what? It beggars belief. Why, you know, it's like you say, you just got caught up in it and that bravado and yeah, just saying so. Please, I would say that message again and again and again. If it just go get checked out. You know, I know it's not as easy in the US. You know, you don't have the healthcare we have because we do have this, albeit, you know, I wouldn't say sinking ship, but it's certainly listing of the NHS, beloved NHS. But oh God, angels, absolute angels. You know, these people, they looked after me, and you know, it did. It was.
Well, we're all lucky that you're still here because there's more music to come for sure.
There is
one thing I want to do. I save this for the end because I think it's important. Like I mentioned earlier, everyone go out and buy Kris's music. You know, don't rent it, buy it, support him, support Amitri. You know, there were too few years where we didn't have them making new music, and hopefully we'll get a lot more out of them. So please go out and buy your music. But Kris, who are some people that you might be listening to now that your average listener may not be aware of, or someone who, you know, that you think would be cool for someone to experience the music?
Right. Well, there's one name sprung immediately to mind. There's a guy called Max Richter. Do you know? He's a film composer, really, I suppose. He does some brilliant things. It's kind of electronic. It's that neoclassical thing, I guess, for want of a better expression for me, anyway. But yeah, Max Richter. He does a lot of film soundtracks. But I first came across him as a thing on BBC4, the telly that I watched on him, and he done this thing called Sleep, which is an 8-hour piece. 8 hours, but it is what it is. It's to sleep to, which was like, I'm like, yeah, yes, I'm get that, you know, and not only that did he write this piece, you know, to fall asleep to, he took it out on the road, and he's played all over the world. I think he played in Los Angeles and New York, and but he sets up this, you know, the stage, and there's all these beds in a park somewhere, and it starts at 10 in the evening, goes right through. You know what I'm saying about things, you know, that haven't been done before. That is, you know, a prime example of what So yeah, he's definitely one guy that I just, and he done another piece where he got different people. He done this piece of music. It's quite electronic. It's quite ambient, I guess maybe you'd call it. But you got people to recite the Human Rights Declaration, and but not just in English. It was all in all kinds of languages. And again, it's just a brilliant piece because you got all these different languages coming in and out, and then you get a bit of English and you hear something, you're like, yeah, right on, absolutely, because obviously the Declaration of Human Rights is a good thing. A lot of people might not think so, but I certainly do. And so he's kind of like definitely, I wouldn't say top of my list, but I'm just
Would you
trying to
put
think. Let
him
me look
kind
at my
of?
last.
Well,
Sorry.
while you're looking at that, would you put him kind of in that Philip Glass kind of space? Is it kind of
Yes,
like that?
yes. I love Philip Glass, and I love who's the other guy from New York? Steve Reich. Yeah, I don't know if you know Steve Reich. I love. Again, it's just playing. I'm looking at the last things I play. I know you're going to hate me for this, but I do listen to Spotify, and I'm looking at the last things that I can't get it up now. Your favourite? No, it's not there now, is it? But yeah, I'm just trying to think of else. Guitar. There's not really anyone. There's again when I finish this interview, I'm going to go. Oh, I should have mentioned so and so. It's just my recall memories. It's just terrible. But he was the guy that and a lot of that soundtrack. Man, they're not a new band, but there's a band that I absolutely adore. Again, it's not rock music or anything, but it's a band called the Penguin Cafe Orchestra. I don't know if you've heard of them. They formed in the mid 1970s, but they just do this beautiful kind of, it's a bit folky, a bit classical. It's not really rock, but sometimes maybe, but just simple, almost baroque kind of melodies and instrumental. And but it was formed by a guy called Simon Jeffs who died in the 90s, but his son has taken it over and just goes out as Penguin Cafe. And we went to see him last year, and I tears rolling down my face watching him. But it was right near Christmas. I was in a church. I'm not religious, but it was in a church, and it was just a beautiful setting, and yes, it was wonderful. So yeah, the Penguin Cafe Orchestra definitely high on my list, and Max Richter. But yeah, and funny enough, getting completely away from that, I heard a track on the radio as I was driving home by Suicide. The New York band, Alan Vega, was it? I think they're around in the sort of 80s, maybe 70s. But yeah, it was a great track. Dream Baby Dream. I think Springsteen covered it. Fantastic. I was driving, I'm like, this is just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, Actually, there's playing some good stuff on that radio show as it goes. So, yeah, as I say, my taste is that I just love anything that hits me, If it hits me and I'm like, wow, then great. But yeah,
I feel the same way. I mean, I'm all over the place. I've got a hard drive with about 1 million songs on it from every genre under the sun. The only things I don't really connect with are American country. Like I like,
oh really?
Like I love like Americana, like maybe like the Jayhawks, Lucinda Williams, Lyle Lovett, but the pop country that's out now,
the manufactured shit, is
not my genre.
That's fair enough.
And although a friend of mine swears that I should be able to have an affection for Rammstein, I just can't find it. But other than that,
find a bit of Rammstein. I've got to confess, we had a phase. I think it was one of the European tours we did in the 90s, and we used to play that Rammstein with Du hast mich, and we were all fucking headbanging on the bus listening to Rammstein. It was great. So yeah, I don't mind a bit of Rammstein. That's all right. But
I think nowadays I'm sorry. I think the best thing to do at a Rammstein show now is to bring raw meat, because there's so many flamethrowers. You could probably have a great barbecue.
I'm sure, yeah. But no, I don't mind. Yeah, a bit of metal. There was a band rehearsing the other day when we was rehearsing, and they were like, is it death metal? It's like, whoa, whoa. And I'm like, she sounds pretty good, I'm like, it's just whatever sort of hits you. I mean, the only music, there's not really any music only genre of music that I mean, real operatic stuff. If it's like that, that grates a little bit, and jazz I could never really listen to, but probably the last 20 years I actually really like some, like classic jazz like Coltrane and Miles and stuff. I could quite get into quite easily, but yeah, when in my 20s, no, I didn't go near it. No.
Yeah, I love what Joe Jackson has done with his appreciation for jazz and classical. I really like the fact that he disregards what the flavor of the day is, but he goes to those things and revitalize them. He
Does
just
he
had
really?
this whole
Yeah.
tour. He just had this whole tour where he'd come out for the first half of the show, play his stuff by himself, which he's just amazing when he's just on a piano by himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, he comes out with this band and they're doing like ragtime and stuff like that, and it was just amazing.
Big fan of ragtime. Yeah, I wish I could play it better on the guitar. Something I'm going to go and practice now, my ragtime playing. But yeah, I love ragtime. I mean, Joe Jackson, I loved it. I mean, he was probably a couple of his songs I used to do in a covers band, back in the day, would be Different for Girls, and yeah, he's great. But I didn't know he did that. I'll check him out because I do like him. Again, years ago, I remember driving back and listening to something of his on the radio and thought, this is great. I can't remember what it was, but I do remember thinking, trying to have to listen, think, who's that? When they say the name, and sometimes they don't, which is really annoying, but they actually said, oh, that was Joe Jackson live from somewhere or the other. And I was like, wow, okay, yeah. But yeah, I'll have to check him out, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, Kris, you now have the record for the longest hang. Congratulations. I'll try and produce an award. No, this is great. We've been at it a while now, and this has been just an absolutely brilliant conversation. We've spanned a lot of things, and I really appreciate you making time for me. This is
a pleasure.
One for the record.
I mean, when you suggested it, I was, because I quite like YouTube. I'm not a fan of Facebook or any of Instagram, whatever any of that, but YouTube I quite like because you watch videos, and I've watched a few of these things. I say not just about music, all kinds of topics that people have these conversations, and I get really into them. I think they're great. So when you suggested it, I was like, yeah, I'll be up for that. That sounds great. Yeah. So it's been a pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. I appreciate you joining us. Everybody who watched, go out, buy Kris's music, check out Amitri on tour. If Kris is playing somewhere near you, check him out because really it's just lovely. Some great music and you'll enjoy the time. And if you see this video and you go to see Kris, tell him you came to see him because of this video. So we appreciate everyone hanging with us. Please leave us some questions in the comments. Always, a thumbs up and a subscription. Share this with your friends. Kris, thank you so much for spending time with us today. And everybody, we'll be back soon. Thanks so much.
Cheers.